Rube, I want to talk about this podcast, but I don't want to give anything away to other podcasts. Competitive advantage.
Yeah, we're just not going to get into that right now. Let's just say we'll do a podcast, and there will be a podcast.
Okay.
And then the podcast will have been done.
Okay.
And then, everyone will just kind of find out.
Yeah, I prefer not to say more.
Yeah, I don't want to really get into that.
That was the theme of Tuesday's press conferences, and we'll get into that in a second. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast brought to you by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. If you're watching on YouTube, yes, we look nice. We were, it was promo day here at the office. We had to get dressed up.
What were we doing promos for?
Just stuff. No, I'd rather not say.
Competitive advantage. Yeah.
I'd rather not say at this moment. That was the theme today.
It's so stupid. I'm sorry. I mean, like the notion that, the Lions are going to have some advantage if Michael Clay announces that Quez Watkins is going to return punts or Britton Covey is going to come up. And I mean, it's just, and, it comes from Nick. And I guess, I mean, every coach is paranoid to an extent, but so it's probably no different. But I mean, how's it going to help another team by announcing?
Probably it won't.
It won't.
Yeah.
It's just tell us who the damn punt returner is. It's stupid.
Yeah, it didn't.
And Nick takes it to, and I like Nick. Nick's a good guy, but he takes it to ridiculous extremes with this, competitive advantage stuff.
And look, a lot of coaches are paranoid, and to a certain extent, I understand it. Like teams do look at some clips from other media markets, but some of it is a little much. Like Jonathan Gannon not committing to CJ Gardner-Johnson playing in week 1. I'd be pretty shocked if he's not playing in week 1.
Yeah, I would too. A lot of things would shock me.
Yeah.
I mean, they announce where like troop movements when there's like wars and stuff like we're going to be attacking from the. I mean, like if they can do that, like they announced like where Air Force One is landing. I mean, like there's no secrets anymore. But anyway, whatever.
But we'll get into some of the secrets, and we'll try to read between the lines here at a few different spots. And let's talk about safety, because 11 days, that's all CJ Gardner-Johnson has to get ready for week 1. And I think on some levels, it's not a huge deal. Like he's played football a long time, and he's done some crossover work that will help him, but there's a lot of new verbiage, and it's a lot in 11 days to get caught up, and not just to play, but to play well and to be able to do everything in the defense. So even if he plays, I think there's a chance they're going to have to scale some things back for him.
Yeah, I would think so. And really, it just takes one, like you could think you have a pretty good understanding. It just takes one like communications blunder to all of a sudden you have the Kirk Coleman Namdi like arms up in the air. Like, what are you doing over there? When this guy's running 80 yards wide open for a touchdown. It takes one play, one mess up. So it's not very much time. They lost one of their backup plans when Anthony Harris decided he didn't want to be an Eagle. We'll get into that later. I mean, that was kind of a weird deal. So there's not a lot of options. And if he's not ready, I mean, it's not like Kayvon Wallace or, gives you much of a, much confidence. And, I think Avante can play safety, but he hasn't really taken reps there and hasn't played there in a while. I think he'd be okay, but there's no ideal, like it's whoever they line up is going to be someone that wasn't playing safety in training camp, whoever it is, unless it's Kayvon or Reed Blankenship.
Those are the only two safeties
right
on the roster who aren't the starters.
Right. And it won't be one of them.
Yeah. It'll be CJ Gardner-Johnson. It's just a matter of how good can he be right away? And we heard in his first practice, he broke up a pass. I expect him to battle, and I think he has a chance to make some plays, but you're right. I mean, it would only take one blunder to really screw up a game.
And I started believing you had a pretty good theory that they were going to make Anthony Harris a game day elevation and start him after cutting him and putting him on the practice squad, or he signed to the practice squad. I mean, you don't put someone on it. Someone has to willingly agree to sign to the practice squad. You can't just assign someone that, and that they could do that up to 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think they were going to do it.
No, but it was a good theory.
They had it
in their back
pocket.
Yeah.
If they got to this week of practice and said, "Oh my God, this guy
isn't ready,
is in over his head."
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be the case, though.
I don't either, but it was a good kind of plan just in case. Like if the kid was like, look, this is just your throwing, because it's not an easy defense to learn.
Mhm.
And, the safety, I mean, there's a reason they have OTAs and training camp and all that stuff and meetings and film study. And, so he just got his playbook 10 days ago, less than 10 days ago. It'll be 10 days Saturday, I guess.
Mhm.
And it's a little scary. So yeah, I like the notion of at least Anthony Harris, make him active, bring him up if you need him, but he's not a factor anymore. So I think Chauncey Gardner Johnson is going to be the guy. And, it's not going to always be pretty, but I think he's the best option.
I think he's the best option too. It's funny though. In one way you go from the veteran who knows the defense better than anyone else, who's probably not going to make a play, but probably not going to have a giant screw up. You kind of go a little more boom bust, at least at the beginning. I think eventually, obviously, like Gardner Johnson's a better player and he'll be fine. But in the beginning, you're going to have to worry a little bit about, is he going to know everything he needs to know? But I also think even from day one, he's got a better shot to make plays.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the other thing to remember is that, he's entering a secondary that's kind of in transition as well. I mean, Marcus Epps has started a handful of games, but he's a new starter. Bradbury wasn't here last year. So there's a lot of moving pieces as we hear so often.
Yeah.
Not lately, but
I think Marcus Epps is going to have a lot on his shoulders.
He sure is.
Because I think the coaches are obviously doing most of the heavy lifting during the week, making sure Gardner Johnson is caught up as much as he possibly can be. But once they're on the field, I mean, Marcus Epps is going to have to worry about it a little bit, which is a lot. I mean, he's entering a season where he's a full-time starter for the first time in his career. And it's gotten less and less. I think people have really understood that, the Eagles like Marcus Epps. All this searching for safeties throughout the offseason was not about him. It was about the other position.
Right.
They like him. And you're always projecting when a guy goes from a backup role to a starter's role, and we don't know how we'll play, but he was their best safety last year over two guys who have done it a lot longer. And I think he's going to play pretty well. And I think he can handle the extra responsibility with a guy who hasn't played for more than 2 weeks here.
Yeah, I think I asked Marcus Epps last week. I think it was the day after he got here, after Chauncey Gardner Johnson got here, how big a challenge is this going to be for the whole group? And he said, it's a challenge, but it's, something we have some time and we'll work through. But I can't sit here and say 100% it's going to be seamless.
Yeah, we'll see that. I'm excited to watch Gardner Johnson play, though, because he is such a, we were kind of clamoring for someone to make a play as a safety last year.
Right.
And it didn't really happen. There was the big play was the Rodney McLeod diving interception
on his last play as an Eagle.
Yeah. But,
they were few and far between. And look, he wasn't healthy when the season began.
Yeah.
And I think his first few weeks back, even, he missed 3 games?
Yeah. I
think it wasn't until like week 8 or 9 that he really even looked like his old self, but he was pretty good after that. But it's a lot for Epps. It's a lot for Gardner Johnson. It's a lot for Bradbury. It's a lot for all those guys, for Avante, for anyone who's out there.
Yeah. But talent.
Yeah.
There's just more talent there than there was last year. And there might be some growing pains, but I think the talent's going to win out. And I think the secondary is going to be better this year.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
You got anything else on the safety situation? You mentioned Anthony Harris. The whole thing's been kind of strange. When they traded for Gardner Johnson, they basically thought they upgraded. They cut Anthony Harris because, he's a starting player who doesn't offer the upside of some of the other players. He's probably not going to be a big-time special teams contributor like the other guys. So I thought it was a nice win when they got into the practice squad for a day.
Yeah, and then, then comes a report from Adam Schefter that the Eagles and Anthony Harris are mutually working on an amendment or adjustment to his contract to cut ties with him. which doesn't make sense for a couple of reasons. Number one, he didn't have to sign to the practice squad.
Yeah.
So if he didn't want to be here, why did he do that? It was only, I think, 6 days later that he didn't want to be here. And number two, you're a free agent when you're on the practice squad. You're not a property of that team. You're a free agent. And I think it's Friday or is it Thursday at 4, you can't change teams. But any team can sign any practice squad player during the week.
Mm-hmm.
So if Anthony Harris's agent, and it's not tampering, like the agent can talk to, teams like, do you want this? We have Anthony Harris. He's on the practice squad. Do you want him on your 53? And yeah, well, I think we'd like to sign him. Then he signed, so that's how you poach a player from the practice squad. So if he wanted his options open, they were open. They were as open as they could be. He was a free agent. So, if you have an offer from another team or another team wants you or multiple teams want you, and let's even assume that they didn't 6 days earlier, something happened, an injury or something, whatever, they can sign you. But if you don't, you're making for him, I think it's, what is it, $12,000, $13,000 a week just to practice. So I don't really understand. He had to change of heart for some reason. And the one theory I had was maybe he found out that he was going to be a game day elevation, and he was like, I don't want to be your fallback option anymore. Isn't that a song by Everclear? What's that song about? We can swim out to the breakers.
Watch the world die.
Yeah, it's a great song, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's a line in there about that, but that's the only thing I can imagine is like, well, they're gonna get a couple starts out of me, and then when Gardner Johnson is ready, they're gonna throw me by the wayside, and I don't want to be here for that. But I don't know. I'm just speculating. I don't really understand the whole situation. Did they even announce that they've released him?
Yeah, they did.
Did they announce that? I didn't even.
Because they brought back Mac McCain.
Oh, did they? Mac McCain's back. Okay, so the Lions are quaking in their shoes. It's all so weird. Yeah. But he's a class act. He's a good guy. If he doesn't play again, which I think is certainly possible, he's had 7 good years. He's vested
Undrafted
guy out of Virginia, just like Rodney McLeod. Mm-hmm. I wish him well.
Had one heck of a season. And what was that? What year was that? He had 8 picks.
20. I don't know. I could look it up. I don't feel like it.
That's fine. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
Return men.
Yeah.
Let's say the Eagles lose the coin toss. They get the ball first.
Yeah.
Who's the kick returner?
I have no idea.
Really? I think there's only a couple options. One of them is Quez Watkins. He's, the Eagles put out their PR curated depth chart, and he's the top on both lists for punt returner.
Yeah, I think he'll be the punt returner.
You?
Yeah, I do. I think it'll be Quez.
Interesting.
Quez might do both of them.
Well, he's never returned a punt in the NFL.
I know.
He's returned some kicks, and to be honest, hasn't been a very good kick returner.
No.
He has a lower average than Jalen Reagor, but you understand why he could be good as a kick returner. And honestly, the kick returner,
you might get it. Yeah. How often do you even return one?
That play has really been almost eliminated.
Yeah.
The punt returner matters.
Yeah.
The punt returner certainly matters. And I'd be scared throwing Quez out there with no experience.
I wouldn't.
And he's a big part of the offense.
I mean, there's Gainwell. He's not giving you a lot of explosiveness. There's bringing up Britton Covey.
That's the move.
He's going to catch it, and he'll get you 6 or 7 yards.
Or more.
Maybe more. We didn't really see it in the preseason, but again, he's a young rookie, just learning his way. We know he's done it on another level. His college tape, he sees the field really well.
I think it's me, Covey.
I think it makes the most sense.
Yeah. They have only 4 receivers on the roster. You bring him up, whether it's signing him to the active roster or elevating him. Either way, I think he'll be up for this game, and I think he'll be returning.
I would trust him the most. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to make a good decision, whether to fair catch it, whether to let it bounce, whether to return it. And, I think we talked about this that first week at camp. I mean, he's going to make the right decision. I don't know if he'll get you 12 yards or 15 yards or just 8 yards, but he's going to make the right decision. He'll field it cleanly. He'll do the right thing. and he's not going to let a ball bounce down to the 1.
Yeah. So I went through all my notes during training camp, and I found every player who took a rep at these spots. At punt returner, it was Rager, not here. Greg Ward, not here. Braden Covey, we talked about. Quez Watkins, we talked about. Lance Lenoir.
Lenoir. That's how I say it. Like, not that I say it that often.
Gone. Kenny Gainwell, I don't think it's a great option. Avonte Maddox has done it in practice for a few years. They've never put him back there, and I think there's probably a reason.
Yeah.
They've never put him back there. And then A.J. Brown did return punts one day. They're not going to do that.
No. And I think Maddox is probably an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
A.J. Brown's probably more of an emergency.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's Quez or Covey makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
Kicks, I guess you put Quez back there.
I think
you could put Covey back there too.
If Covey's up, I think he does both.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's why you bring him up.
Yeah. Although, I mean, Quez could break one.
So could Covey.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. And you have a better chance with Quez.
I disagree with that. It's not about pure speed. It's about letting the blockers set up for you and knowing where to hit it. And Covey knows how to do that.
It's going to be his first NFL game. The game's so much faster on this level.
Didn't Randall Cobb return a kick his first NFL game?
I don't know.
I think that's it.
I don't know. But, Covey's also an undrafted rookie. So we'll see. The one thing about him is, like I said, I have trust in him to do the right thing. So I'm sure they do as well.
Yeah. The one nice thing is, Jalen Rager had both of those spots for the most part last year.
Can't get any worse.
I don't want to say that because I guess it could. But he was pretty bad last year. And in both areas.
Yeah. And he returned a punt for a touchdown. Rookie year?
Rookie year, yeah.
Yeah, rookie year against the Packers, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The problem with him was his judgment. He always did the wrong thing.
And I think his confidence issues on offense definitely carried over to special
Absolutely.
teams.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And he just didn't ever make the right decision. I think everything just kind of got to him. And they were trying to all right, what can we get out of him? How can we get the ball in his hands? And it just didn't work.
And that's part of the nice thing about the trade, honestly, because if he's still on this team, those are his jobs still.
If he's active.
Well, he would have been.
I think he would have been down. Because they would have kept another receiver on the 53.
Okay. I think they would have kept all 5 active.
Maybe. Who knows?
Not that it really
We're getting
matters.
into hypotheticals now.
Oh, you don't want to talk hypotheticals? You Chip? Chip would never talk hypotheticals.
No. But he would if it was in his terms.
Yeah.
But then if
it wasn't in his terms often.
Yeah. But if it was something he raised, he would. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't even hypotheticals. It was who's your quarterback going to be?
That is everything's hypothetical.
To Chip it was. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Chip.
Okay.
Chip wasn't a very nice man.
No. Billy Davis came up today.
Yeah, Billy was a good dude.
Yeah.
Poor Billy Davis. His defenses had to play 42 minutes every game.
His defense looked up and they were like, "We just got off the field. We're going back to the field."
It'd be the offense would be on the field. They go 3 and out. It was like game clock time of 28 seconds. Yeah. And here comes the defense back on the field. There's Nate Allen. What are we doing here? Yeah, it was not.
It was a tough spot to be in.
It was.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a bad linebackers coach.
No, I don't think so either. You got anything else on returners?
No.
Okay.
Hey, you deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself. Shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Rube, it's about that time. I think we should each pick our offensive and defensive MVPs for this season.
Okay.
I'm already on record because I got asked this in a mailbag. So I'll start off. I'll give you my offensive and defensive.
Sure.
I'll explain it and then we'll go offensive first and we'll go back and forth.
Okay.
My offensive MVP, and there are some options here. I'm going A.J. Brown. Just because he's really the one piece they've added, and they were not good enough in the pass game last year, and you expect them to be, much better this year. I knew they got a good player, but I'll be honest, I don't think I understood how good he was until training camp.
Yeah, he is special. I just love listening to him talk. I have a story. I think it was posted yesterday, which would have been, gosh, Monday. Just him talking about how he plays football and just how he uses his physical prowess to to make plays, and just what he looks for from defenders. It was really interesting. He is so much fun to watch. Eagles fans are going to love this dude. And I know you've seen him in Tennessee, and you've seen little clips in training camp, but man, you're going to love watching him. He's going to be, it's a great pick.
It is. And he's also the kind of player who can catch balls that aren't perfect. Now, the perfect balls will give him a chance to pick up yak, which is something he excels at, but he can make the tough catches too. So it takes a little pressure off the quarterback.
Yeah, there's no question. And, he's different than other receivers this team's had recently. Yeah. I mean, he's good, which is number one. But Devontae's good, but he's just so physical and initiates contact. He wants to run through guys, not around them. He's not slow.
Yeah,
he's not slow, but 4.49 for receivers, middle of the pack. Yeah. But the fact that he has led the NFL in 50-yard catches over the last 3 years since he came into the league as an average speed guy.
I think his speed's above average.
It's not much above average if it is, but he's certainly not one of the fastest guys. I mean, he's not a 4.3 guy.
I think he's faster now than when he got in the league.
Maybe, but I think he makes plays in other ways is what I'm saying.
He does, yeah.
He makes plays by being physical, by out-muscling guys.
He's a little different play style, but when you're talking about a big, fast, physical player, the Eagles got Alshon after his prime.
Right.
He was a good
27 when they got him.
Yeah, but he was still after his prime.
Yeah.
I don't take anything away from him because he obviously had a good run when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, so you don't take that away from him, but he was their best receiver.
Well, when? That year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he was a little better than Nelly. Nelly was their best in the postseason.
Okay.
Alshon made an incredible catch in the end zone with Eric Rowe on him and a bad shoulder.
Yeah. Which is why I don't want to like.
No, I don't want to disparage him.
Yeah, he
stole money after that, but
sure. But you don't want to disparage him.
I don't want to disparage
he stole money.
I don't want to disparage him, but no, he did. But anyway, yeah.
But my point is that he would have been that if they got him in his prime, but they didn't. So you have to go back to. Do you go back to T.O.?
T.O. Although T.O. was really fast too.
I think you're underestimating A.J. Brown's speed.
I mean, he's really fast, but he's not. I mean, he's not a blazer. He's not a burner.
Okay.
That's why I like the Irving Fryer comparison.
Okay.
Irving was fast, but he wasn't like.
You see that clip of A.J. racing Elijah Moore?
I don't think I've seen it. Look, I'm not saying he's not fast. He is fast. I'm just saying he's not one of the 10 fastest receivers in the league.
Okay.
But he's led the league in big plays over the last 3 years because he makes plays in other ways and he runs over people. If you don't really give a great effort tackling him, you won't get him down. Mm-hmm. Because he's going to keep fighting and keep battling. And I think that's what my point is like he just is going to use his strength and his physicality. I'm not sure that's a word, but he's going to use those dimensions in addition to speed to make plays. And they just haven't had a guy like that.
Physicality is a word.
Okay, it is now. Yeah, physicality is a word.
How about you? You got an offensive MVP?
I'm going to go Jalen. I think when all is said and done, we're going to look at his season and just say, he made the jump that we were hoping he would make, that the Eagles were hoping he would make, as far as accuracy, as far as decision making, as far as getting rid of the ball decisively, making good decisions, getting the ball in the end zone, using his legs less but still as a weapon, and just kind of helping this offense transition to more of a passing offense and leading this team. And I think he's going to do all those things. And certainly A.J. Brown's going to be a big part of it. Goddard will be, Devontae, Quez, Gainwell, but he's got good weapons. But I'm just going to go Jalen. I think he's going to make the strides that he needs to make.
Yeah. Anyone else you were thinking of? I really thought about one of the offensive linemen. I
Yeah.
guess it would have been Lane. I think he's their best offensive lineman, but it's tough to
Take
single
the
one
vote
guy
from
out.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it could be Mulata by the end of the year. It could be Kelsey.
Yeah.
Could be Dickerson. It could be any of them.
Yeah.
Maybe. Sabal is really solid. So, I was thinking of Miles just because if Miles stays healthy, which is something we never really think about, but if he did, right? But like if he plays 15,
I feel like
16
that's
games,
all we think about.
if he finds like his rookie year, he didn't get hurt. He didn't play as much, but if he did find a way to stay healthy and put together 15 games at the exact same production level of his career, you're looking at 1,100 yards and at a 4.8 average.
With 0 touchdowns.
Well, if you look at his career averages,
no.
he would have 4 or 5.
Just joking.
So I really think he would be in the mix. Even Goddard would be in the mix.
And Goddard's a tough one too because the stats don't tell the whole story either with him. He's such a good blocker.
Yeah. So there's a lot of candidates, but I'm going to go Jalen.
All right, you want to take first?
No, you go for you have yours done already.
Okay,
so.
The defensive MVP for me is kind of an under the radar one. I thought about Hassan Reddick because I really do think he's gonna help that pass rush, but I went with Javon Hargrave.
Interesting.
I think he's primed for a big year. I know he's missed some time with a toe injury, but he's going to be back for the season opener. And we saw what he can do when he's not the focal point of an offensive line's protection, right? Like we saw him last year, how he started that season. He was just electric. He was dynamic. And then once offenses said, well, we got to double this guy, it changed a lot. Just the presence of Jordan Davis alone is going to take double teams. And if Javon Hargrave gets one-on-ones, I think he's going to beat them pretty consistently. He had 7.5 sacks last year. I think he can at least duplicate that this year. Interior pass rush means so much. And it's a contract year for him.
It is.
Probably his last time to get a real
contract year for most of the defense.
Yeah. But it's probably his last chance to get like big deal in the NFL.
Right.
So it's a little under the radar, and I admit that, but I like his chances to have a really big season.
Okay, that's a good one. I was actually considering a really under the radar guy. I was considering TJ Edwards, just because he's so solid.
Yeah.
He's so important to this defense, and he's not a guy who's going to have like 5 interceptions and 3 sacks or anything, but he's just such an important part of the defense. But I just don't think he'll have the big plays. Although he could, he's improved as a cover player. He's gotten better as a, and he might have a chance to blitz more because I think Gannon's going to dial up more blitzes. But I went with Slay. I just think he's such a playmaker. He's such a dynamic player, and having Bradbury on the other side is gonna. I think there's going to be more balls thrown his way. So I just, I think he's. Like 5 interceptions and maybe a pick 6 in there and another Pro Bowl. And and it's more than just the interceptions, but just the consistency that you see from him knocking down balls, just good coverage. Really, there's not a lot of proven big time playmakers, and there's more than there were. But he's just such a dynamic player. So I went Slay.
That's fair. He was so good last year, and the big plays. If it takes 3 big plays from that cornerback position to elevate a player pretty high up on the list.
Yeah.
All right. For the sake of fairness, we have to go to kind of the flip side of all this sunshine and rainbows talk. Candidates to be the biggest disappointment on the team.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Offensive disappointment. I went Gainwell. I just don't have a good feeling about him. And he's a talented kid. He does a lot of things well, but the drops really concern me. And he dropped the ball. And in the last game, I think he had a nice catch, but it was really all throughout camp. We just never saw him turn that around. And that's going to be his biggest role is as a 3rd down receiver. And he's a good runner, but I just, we saw Miles take that big step backwards from year 1 to year 2. And I'm not saying that really has anything to do with it, but I just have a feeling Gainwell's not going to match the production that he had last year. So I'm going to go Gainwell.
Interesting. He had a weird rookie season because by the end of the year, you looked at the production and said that's pretty good, but it was really up and down, and his role changed.
Yeah, inactive one game.
You'd like to see some consistency there. Am I giving you an offensive one?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going Miles, and it's nothing against his talent. I want to see him stay healthy. That's it. And we talk about it so much, so we don't need to elaborate more on it. But the hamstring injury in training camp wasn't a good start.
No.
Because he was running hard. Looked like he was running harder than I've ever seen him run. And then he goes down with a hamstring and he misses. If that happens in the season, he's missing 2-3 games.
Yeah. And it happened in a game where he had played 8 snaps.
Yeah.
So how's he going to play 40, 45, 50 snaps week after week? Stay healthy. It's fair.
Yeah. You want me to give my defense?
Sure.
I'll give you Fletcher Cox.
I know it won't be the same as mine.
Okay. I'm going to give you Fletcher Cox. Because I'm even a little bullish on the idea that he really came around toward the end of last year. Him and Gannon are on the same page, but he is an aging player who, well, they're all aging, I guess. He's an older player. We're all aging, right? He's an older player who has played a ton of snaps in the NFL. And I just wonder how he's going to hold up. And I wonder, what we saw at the end of last year, can he sustain at least that level of play for an entire year? The Eagles think so. We know that. They paid him $14 million, which is still a top 10 defensive tackle contract in the league. And I still think he's a good player. Is he going to live up to that? Is he going to be, are we still going to see shades of, he still talks like he's an elite player. And I get that that's the mindset, right? Like he has to think that.
Right.
I don't know if he can still take over games. I don't know if he can still be a Pro Bowl caliber player. And they're kind of paying him like it, and it would really help if he was, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
It's fair. So that leaves. Oh, did I give you a defensive disappointment?
No, that's what we're all on the edges of our seats waiting.
I had to figure this out where we were. I'm going to go Javon Hargrave. That's how I knew it wasn't going to be the same as you. I don't know. The layoff concerns me. It happened, the first couple of days of camp. His second half last year, I just didn't see the production. I don't know. We'll see. Just maybe a hunch more than anything.
Okay. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, you've always been bullish on him, and that's great. I'm just going there. I thought about Fletcher. I think Fletcher's looked okay in camp. I think he's looked.
Yeah, and look, Fletcher in camp at in year 12.
Yeah,
who cares?
Yeah, I thought about B and G or BG because 34 coming off that injury, but after what he's done in his career, I would never, bet against him. Mm-hmm. So I'm going Hargrave.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I don't think Fletcher's going to have a bad year either way. I just think if there's a letdown, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I would say that about Hargrave. If he ends up with 4 sacks, what do you have last year? 7.5 he finished with. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he takes a step backward from that.
Okay. All right, let's end on a positive note here. Some under-the-radar players that we probably haven't talked about enough that we think could help the team. We'll just ping-pong this back and forth a little bit?
Sure.
Want me to go?
Yeah. Start offense.
Start offense?
Yeah.
Okay. Offensively, I'll give you Zach Pascal. I didn't expect much from him, honestly. But
Same.
He was a pleasant surprise in training camp. And I think his role is going to be limited because – how many times are they going to play 4 receivers? Not very often. So he'll have moments where he's out there, but I think they can rely on him, and I think he'll give them some good snaps.
I'm going to go Deion Kane because at some point he's going to be up and he's going to make some plays. Mm-hmm. I just like him, and I guess he can't get more under the radar than a guy's not on the team right now.
That's pretty good.
But I really like what I saw from him. I think he can play a little bit. Okay. So, yeah, throw him in there.
We go another offense?
Yeah, sure.
Well, this I don't know how under the radar it is because we talked about him potentially being the MVP, but of this team, Dallas Goedert might be under the radar. He might classify as under the radar because AJ Brown is getting all the fanfare right now, but Dallas Goedert was targeted more in training camp than Brown.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, even when he's not catching the ball, he means an awful lot to this team in the run game and as a pass blocker. He is very good. And it's crazy to think about. This time last year, Zach Ertz was still here. And Dallas Goedert didn't really know where he stood.
Yeah.
This year, he knows. Everyone knows. He's their top tight end, and there aren't many better in the league.
It's amazing. He was only targeted 76 times last year. That was 17th most among tight ends.
Yeah.
But he had the 5th most yards among tight ends, which tells you how, he made the most of his targets. I mean, 56 catches on 76 targets is incredible. I sat down one day and I figured out, I came up with a new stat, receptions per target, and he was one of the highest in the league, or the highest. I feel the same way about him. And I'm going to go for another under the radar guy. I'm going to give you Grant Calcaterra.
Interesting.
I don't know how much he'll play, and you could say Jack Stoll too, because he's a guy who played a third of the snaps last year. Nobody ever talks about him. Played 47% of the snaps from Detroit on.
Pretty crazy.
And really, you never even talked about him or heard his name. But I think Calcaterra is going to make an impact as a receiver. I don't think he's going to get a ton of targets. There's so many guys who can catch the ball, but he showed he's a polished receiver, and now he needs work on the other aspects of his game. But I could see him catching a couple balls per game, and maybe not getting any more than 5 or 6 snaps, but catching a couple balls on those snaps.
I was asked a mailbag question the other day: who do I think plays more snaps, Stoll or Calcaterra? And I said Stoll because when they're in 12 personnel, it makes more sense.
Sure,
to have the better blocker out there. But I am curious about Calcaterra and how much he plays, if it ramps up throughout. I think initially it's going to be really heavy Stoll.
Yeah.
But he has a chance to earn playing time over the year.
Yeah, I would think so. And if he can just become a functional blocker, that'll really help.
Yeah. And look, they wouldn't ask him to be the same type of blocker as Stoll. Like, he's not going to be in line.
He'll never.
Like, they're not going to say, hey, block that defensive end coming through. It wouldn't work out well.
No.
How about defense?
Well, I'm going to go with a guy that was not under the radar when camp began, but kind of is now, and that's Nakobe Dean. Because he's kind of had a quiet. He made a lot of plays in that Jets preseason game. He looked pretty active. I just think he's a guy who, he's really smart. He's going to pick things up. He might not have had to train in camp. Like, he didn't have a dominating camp. He didn't really jump out at you a lot, but I just think he's the kind of guy. I think he even wrote about this, that you put him in a game and I think he'll make some plays.
Yeah. I could see them using him in certain situations.
I don't think he'll get a ton of playing time early.
He'll be out there, though.
He'll be out there. Yeah, he was. Again, it was asked about the linebackers today. He's like, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just, just tell us this guy's going to play. But anyway, I think he'll be out there. But I think he's going to. I think he's going to have a role, and I think he'll be a little bit of a factor.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'll give you Patrick Johnson.
Okay.
I think he's going to earn some snaps as a rotational player. And based on what I saw in training camp, I think he can make the most of them. I think he could surprise some people, too. We haven't seen a ton of them. I mean, he played a little bit last year, and we know last year they were really kind of teaching him inside linebacker spots. They were teaching him the Sam. I don't think that Sam spot was as well defined back last year like it is now.
Right.
Hassan Reddick's really defined
right.
what that position is going to be in his defense going forward. Jannard Avery did not. So having a player like Patrick Johnson, now we know what he is, right? Now we know he's going to be asked to be an edge rusher, a stand-up edge rusher, and get around the corner and get after quarterbacks. And I don't think he's going to play a ton, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him get some good pass rushes here and there.
Yeah, I would agree. I will give you a guy who last year started 17 games, had 2 interceptions, knocked down 3 passes, 2 forced fumbles, a sack, 144 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits. Because you're white.
Yeah.
talk about under the radar. I mean, we talk about all these other linebackers. I mean, he's a productive guy, and he's going to play a lot. I think it's going to be him and TJ are going to be the off-ball linebackers for the most part, and he's a good player. I mean, he's better than I thought. He's a guy I didn't really know about when they signed him, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's going to end that line of disappointing free agent linebackers.
Yeah, who's the last? Well, they've had a couple.
What are you asking me?
I was who the last good one was, free agent linebacker.
Nigel,
yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
One more for me?
Sure.
Avante.
Yeah. He's the obvious one.
Is he?
But we talk about him so much, I think.
We talk about him.
He's not really under the radar, but maybe in real life he is.
In real life, not for this podcast.
Because he's not a starter, I guess.
Yeah, he kind of is.
He is to us, but
yeah. Well, I like that the Eagles, even on their depth chart, they list 12 starters because you need to, because they start depending on, what the offense looks like.
Yeah. All right.
Are we good?
Yeah,
we're back on our Tuesday, Thursday after the game podcast schedule. Until
next week when there's a Monday night game, we'll have to figure it out.
Yeah. Oh well. It was nice to be on the schedule for 1 week.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe there as well. We appreciate the love and support. That's all we've got for today. For Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan.